Epang Palace Fu Popular Reading 3 The Fairyland Epang Palace. Author, Treeman. Du Mu's classical allusion to Epang Palace has always been regarded as the early model of Wen Fu. It is now called prose. And the expression of this article is mainly the discussion. It can also be called an argumentative essay. Argumentative essay has three elements: viewpoints, evidence, proof process. What is the viewpoints in this article? It was the six kingdoms themselves, not the state of Qin, who destroyed the six kingdoms. It was also the Qin state itself, not the common people, that destroyed the Qin state. This sentence is characterized by a judgment sentence in ancient Chinese prose. Proof process is the structure of the article. Paragraph 1 describes the building of the Epang Palace. Paragraph 2 is about the maids of the Epang Palace. The third paragraph writes about the Epang Palace treasures, turned into the discussion. Paragraph 4 is the conclusion, which is the viewpoints. The first three paragraphs of Fu are evidences. It was actually written about the Epang Palace. It can be seen that the author's Epang Palace, this evidence can be summarized as a word: many. Many buildings, many maids, many treasures. Many is easy to extravagant. After Qin Shi Huang unified China, he occupied the beauty of money and beauty. For a man, there seems to be the only two big pursuits. So how many men want to be emperors? How many women want to be imperial concubines? Whether everyone will have an emperor complex. Du Mu was going to describe the palace where all people were fascinated by, as a mysterious and magical fairyland. In the Chinese traditional culture thinking, the highest category of imagination is fairyland. And Epang Palace is written as fairyland by Du Mu. First of all, the Epang Palace is human's fairyland. The author wrote that the Epang Palace appeared when the six kings are finished, and the four seas become a whole. It was when Qin Shi Huang unified China. This is a historical fact, but the author turns the Epang Palace into a fairyland. Liu Yuxi said in the recorded The Shabby House, "The mountain is not high, famous for having gods, the water is not deep, famous for having dragon." It can be seen that the ancient Chinese generally believed that the immortals lived in places where there are mountains and water. Or at least there are mountains. For example, the great poet Li Bai once wrote poetry of Tianmu Mountain. Go to the Tianmu Mountain to see the gods, or at least have water. For example, people think that there is the water god in the river. The reason why people think is that the gods live in high mountains and far rivers. It is because the high mountains and far water are too mysterious. The high mountains have clouds, and the far water has fog. The mysterious place in the clouds and fog is the place where the gods live. This is in line with the mysterious characteristics of the immortals. The Epang Palace was written by Du Mu as the place where the gods lived. It is very consistent with the ancients' thought that the immortal living geographical environment. See the Epang Palace fairyland architectural features. There are mountains and water, Shushan and Lishan Mountain, Weha and Fan water. This Epang Palace is better than the average place where the gods live. The general fairyland only occupies the mountains or the water. But the Epang Palace here is full of mountains and water. And the article wrote about the two mountains and two rivers. Look at the mountain, Lishan Mountain north structure and west fold. To provide a vast geographical environment for the Epang Palace. Since it's on the mountain, the geographical environment of this Epang Palace has another characteristic: high distance. The high distance of here. It also shows the mystery of the Epang Palace fairyland. Secondly, the fairyland building of Epang Palace is strange. The main building of the Epang Palace is the honeycomb water vortex. Tens of millions of buildings stand there, the long bridge lies across the water, double rows of corridors weave through the sky. It presents a mysterious feature of flickering light and dark in high and low places, making people psychedelic. The mystery here makes people can't tell if east or west, cannot distinguish the direction. The temperature of each room is different, and it is difficult to distinguish between spring, summer, autumn, and winter. As the old saying goes, one day in the sky, 100 years have passed in this world. In this Epang Palace fairyland, we can feel the changes of the 4 seasons at the same time. Some people say that the climate here refers to the atmosphere, refers to the human feeling. The singing stage is warm, like spring is coming, and the dancing sleeves in the dancing room bring a cold breeze, and the cool is like it is going to be windy or rainy. Within a day, between a palace, and the climate is not uniform. A figurative rhetorical approach is used here. Some say that the Epang Palace is extensive. Different temperatures can be felt in different rooms in the Epang Palace at the same time. We think since this Epang Palace is just an imagination, it is impossible to imagine it as a fairyland. But these words just said the fairyland strange. As the old Chinese saying goes, man should go high, and water should flow low. Epang Palace built on the mountain on the first half of the sentence, people go high. But the second water flowing into the Epang Palace violates the second sentence. The water in the Epang Palace here flows up high up. Because the Epang Palace was built on the mountains, the high terrain. Based on the simple physical knowledge, we know that this is impossible. But the Epang Palace depicted here is a fairyland, not on earth. So it's possible. We say that the general wonderland is just high mountains or far water. And far water doesn't bring it back. But the Epang Palace here is different, occupying the mountains and the water. It also lets the water flow back. So this is not fairyland can be compared to like as the mountain is not high, famous for having gods, the water is not deep, famous for having dragon. If the previous understanding of the high mountains and far water fairyland is the fairyland of the human, then this Epang Palace was the fairyland in the fairyland. So far wrote the Epang Palace fairyland strange. Moreover, the fairyland owner of the Epang Palace is mysterious and daunting. The first part of the article reads, Wonderland. The second part begins with writing about the people who live in Wonderland. It's very strange not to write about the immortals, but write women in the palace, children of the emperor. These people came in ox carts and then became people in the palace of the Qin kingdom. They are foreign guests, not the masters of the Epang Palace. This part of the article for the Epang Palace owner only wrote one place. Thunder suddenly surprised the palace car over also. The article did not write about what the master looked like, but borrowing a fast-passing palace car shows the mystery of its owner. The gods should be mysterious to us. Here thunder is the palace car. Because the environment is very quiet. Standing on both sides of the lucky maids are also very quiet. Everyone held their breath not to make a sound. This reflects the majesty of the owner of the palace car. At the beginning of the Epang Palace written high, very mysterious. And here let the reader begin to feel the mystery of the fairyland master. And it is mysteriously scary. Do Mu slightly write realistic gold and silver jewelry. The third part of Ode to the Epang Palace slightly describes the rare treasures in the Epang Palace. The author does not write much. Sees 2 levels, more excessive. The reason why this part of the text is not so much in the pen. Because these material wealth is still visible to the ordinary people. Because it's so easy to imagine. It cannot highlight the mystery of the fairyland of the Epang Palace.